Welcome to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast, episode number 52. I'm super excited for this podcast episode, one, because I'm bringing it to you from the headquarters of Canada in Ottawa, Ontario, and also because, as I mentioned last week, I wanted to talk about the Taylor Swift documentary, which is what I'm breaking down today. Whatever you feel about Taylor Swift, I promise you that today's episode is loaded with value. It's phenomenal. This is not me blowing smoke up you. I'm telling you, it's gonna be good. Let's jump into it. I spent years building my interior design business, trying to do all the things. The marketing, the networking, the free content, spending thousands of dollars on training and education, only to see minimal growth. After years of frustration, I finally started to ask, what am I missing? I had the systems in place for powerful growth. I had amazing clients. I had determination, drive, and commitment to spare. And yet, I wasn't seeing the success I desired. What if business is not about the doing? What if building a powerful business requires both powerful systems and something else, something deeper? I'm Amy Van Meel, and I'm on a journey to discover that something else. If you are ready to build a powerful business and do it knowing that your success is inevitable, join me as I share both the powerful systems I know work and my lessons and revelations as I discover that something deeper. Welcome, Changemaker, to the Dare to Begin Small and Mighty podcast. Well, hey there, Changemakers. Welcome to podcast episode 52. I'm super excited to be here with you, and I feel a little bit discombobulated because I have been up since 3 a.m. I went to bed at 11:30, and I have been in transit for what feels like a very long time. It's currently 3 o'clock p.m., so I feel like I've been in transit for about 12 hours. I just arrived in Ottawa. So I don't think I've mentioned this at all, but with my swanky new job, which I'm really enjoying, I actually won a trip to come to a conference in Ottawa, Canada. I've never been to Ottawa. I'm really excited to be here. I had a little bit of fun last night, 9:30 at night. I'm hanging with my guy. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go. I just need to pack, but it wasn't a big deal. I can pack in a jiffy. I know some people who freak out when they hear that I start packing at like 10 o'clock at night and my flight's at 9:30 in the morning. And 9:30 at night, we're sitting there hanging out watching Netflix, and I see a notification that my flight had been canceled. So that was fun for about half an hour trying to figure that out. I'd never flown for work before. I've never flown for a job before. Most of my travels have always been personal, and I've never ever had a flight canceled before. So I was trusting it was all going to work out, and it did. I am here. In fact, I have arrived 2 hours earlier than I was supposed to be arriving. Which just occurs to me, it says 3 o'clock on my computer, but it's actually 5 o'clock here. Y'all, it's been a long day. I'm just happy to be here with you. So on last week's podcast, I briefly mentioned the Taylor Swift documentary that was on Netflix. And if you haven't had a chance to watch, I highly recommend that you do. I think it's phenomenal. It's, no matter how you feel about Taylor Swift, I think it's a fantastic documentary. And I think, and this is what I'm actually going to talk about the documentary today. I watched it again on the flight today because I wanted to watch it a second time and make some notes. The first time that I watched it, it was just, I'm a fan of Taylor Swift already. I enjoy her music. Whether that makes you feel less about me now or not, I don't really care. I think that she has a phenomenal way of telling a story. I like the way that she puts her music together. I think she's very talented. And it's always been quite interesting to me. What's been fascinating to me is to, have listened to her music over the years. And I'm not like the kind of fan that I've been to every concert or anything like that. I have yet to be to one, actually. It's on my bucket list. I'm hoping to get to one. But watching this documentary was really quite interesting to me. And I always find it fascinating to see how people develop. And we don't generally get to see that with, you and me and the non-famous people of the world. Typically, we only see those when it's someone who's been highly successful in their career. Whether it's somebody like Taylor Swift or Beyonce or Prince or Michael Jackson or somebody like Steve Jobs or Stephen Hawking or, something like that. people who are just you and me, sort of the regular folk, kind of doing our daily thing, often we don't get to learn those stories of transformation. And the truth is, the documentary really is that. It really is a story of transformation. So I would suggest, no matter how you feel about Taylor, if you hate her guts, if you don't like her music at all, I would encourage you to watch it and to watch it with the eye of an observer, a non-judgmental, an objective observer. I was going to say non-objective. No, I don't want you to be non-objective. I want you to be objective. And I would encourage you to watch it and just pay attention to the journey and use some of the things that she says, some of her own revelations, as a way to cast some insight into your own life, to be able to say, okay, you know what? I'm starting to see, it's so funny. It's so easy. Once you learn what a story is, it's so easy to point out somebody else's story, but it's not necessarily easy to, recognize your own. We're so sold into our own stories that we don't necessarily realize that they're going on. So I think that this is a fantastic way for us to, gain a bit more experience, gain a bit more clarity. So I just want to dive into it a little bit. So what I found quite fascinating about Taylor's story is, and she says it right from the beginning, and it runs all the way through, and you can see it. It's, again, when you start observing somebody else's stories, it's fascinating how you can see these things. But one of the things that she said right at the beginning is that she had a need to be thought of as good. She was fulfilled by approval. And she makes a comment later on that talks about that a lot of people who are in entertainment or who do what she does, whether they're singers or movie stars, whatever, have this need to be applauded. They need to be seen. Their sense of fulfillment, their sense of confidence comes from other people. Now, you and I both know that can be a very dangerous thing, but if you are someone who is that way, then I think it's really important that you recognize that. I don't want to jump ahead too far. I want to sort of stay with my notes, which are, 3 a.m. wake up notes, but I'll do my best. But I want to come back to this idea of being fulfilled by approval and needing to be thought of as good, because it is a recurring theme throughout the documentary, throughout Taylor's growth as a human being, throughout her growth as an artist. It runs through. If you pay attention to some of the lyrics of her songs, you'll hear some of that need to be, people need to see her as good. So what was interesting to me is that she talks, it sort of jumps around the documentary, but at one point she's talking about, she had achieved this level of success, I think it was an award or something, that was sort of a defining moment in her life. And she realized she had become the person that everybody had wanted her to be. Her life had been, in a way, built and defined by those around her. She wanted to be that good girl. She wanted to be that person that, people loved and admired and applauded and wanted to be around. And I'm no different. I want to be that. I think my own upbringing was much more turbulent than I think hers was. And so I was not necessarily, in my opinion of my growing up, and my siblings may have something different to say about this, but my opinion of my growing up was that I was never good enough, that nothing that I ever did was ever going to appease my family. I couldn't, my mom in particular, nothing that I would ever do was ever going to make me good enough in her eyes. I was always going to be the one who was falling short, doing it wrong, that was just the recurring theme in my life. And so it's interesting to me to, see this idea where Taylor's talking about becoming the person that everybody wanted her to be, because I became the opposite. I became the person that I wanted to be, because the person that everybody wanted me to be was this person who fit in one cubby. I couldn't become someone other than who I was when I was 14, because that was who they had defined me as for the rest of my life. And how dare I think about becoming something different? How dare I think about being somebody who was not the good Catholic girl that I was raised to be, someone who challenged things, who thought about things differently, who wanted to try different things. It wasn't okay. And so I was pushing against it, not pushing against it because I refused to fit in, but pushing against it because this person that the people around me wanted me to be was not me. And I knew it. And I wasn't willing to be always forever being put in this state of being where I was always the bad guy. That's what it was growing up for me. So I moved against that. But it's quite interesting to me how she talks about this. Now, what I found really fascinating is there is, again, early on in the documentary, I'm on my third note, y'all. I'm going to try to make it a little bit faster. But on my third note, early on in the documentary, you see her, I have no idea which record this is for, but one of her records, she's waiting for the Grammy nominations to come in. And her agent or whoever calls her and says, you haven't made it in any of the big categories. And I don't know if she won any further down. But what I so admired about Taylor, and this came out over and over and over again, her comment was not, poor me, why can't they recognize me? What do I have to do for people to believe that I make good music? She literally said, okay, that just means I need to make a better record. The next record that I put out has to be better. So she's not looking at this as a pity party. And I mean, a documentary is edited. You might be saying to me, Amy, she might be feeling that way. Maybe she does. Maybe she doesn't. I mean, I don't know. There's probably a part of her that was really bummed out to find out that she wasn't in any of those categories that, were really defining for her industry. But I love the fact that she focused on that it's all right. So that just means I need to be better. And I think we can take something away from this big time when we're doing our own adventures, whether it's within our job or within our business, or we're trying something new, that we don't get down on ourselves if we didn't, succeed. I'm giving you air quotes here. If we didn't succeed in the way that we wanted to the first time or the second time or the 30th time or the 50th time, and not to put ourselves into a state of victimhood where, poor me, it never goes my way. How come nobody ever recognizes my talent? How come that other person always wins? How come that other person always does better? But instead to say, okay, that's cool. So I didn't get it. I'm not going to, sit here and dwell on it forever. It just means I need to do better. Now, I mentioned last week that I have opened the Dare to Begin shop. I'm super excited for it, the Enlightened Entrepreneur shop. If you haven't been there to check it out yet, please do. And I'm seeing my sound waves here sort of up and down. I'm trusting that the audio is okay today. I'm in a hotel room, so I have sort of a makeshift setup. So I'm hoping it's going to come through. But if you haven't yet, please go check it out, daretobegin.net/shop, as in to go shopping. You'll find a button that will take you into the shop itself. And the reason that I tell you this is that I'm still creating it, but I'm planning on having it released not for this podcast. It'll probably be later on in the week or for the podcast following. This is what I want to bring. I'm going to tie this all together. I promise. It's all going to make sense. If you have lived under a rock like I have, then this probably wasn't such a big deal to you, but you kind of heard about it. You may, if you are more, on top of what's happening in the world, then you may have seen it or seen some replay of it. But in the documentary, they show when Taylor was 19 and she won the best video. I think the VMAs. Lord help me. I am not in that industry at all. It's not really something that I follow. But this is the point where she won the best video and Kanye took the mic from her and basically said, no disrespect, but Beyonce deserved this honor and that this is ridiculous that Taylor's getting this. Now, here's what I want to talk about. We don't need to talk about Kanye. I do want to just quickly point out, for someone to do that is so incredibly disrespectful. And I know that in a song that he has later on, he refers to her with the B word and says some really nasty things. What I love about this whole situation is that Taylor continues to rise up. She didn't engage. She refused to say anything negative about him. She basically said, she's 19, guys. I was not this aware when I was 19, let me tell you. But she basically says, I don't want to start anything. I don't know him, is what she says. But this is what I want to focus on. And this you may or may not think that this is fair, but I look at this. Taylor was 19 years old. Kanye's a huge superstar at this point. He's pointing to Beyonce. And when the first time we watched this documentary, my guy and I paused the video and I said, in my opinion, Beyonce should have stood up and stood next to Taylor and said she fully deserved the honor. because whether or not she agrees with it, I believe that we need to stand together. And I know that I have some guys that listen, and I love that there are guys listening. Ladies, this one is for us. I want you to really hear this. We need to stand up with each other. We need to stand together with each other. And it's scary and it's tough and it's not necessarily something that we do naturally. You know, if you've grown up anything like me, women were told that you were lesser, that your voice wasn't to be heard, that, you know, all these really negative things, which has worked out perfectly for me, by the way. But what I want to take away here is that Beyonce was a powerhouse at the time, still is. I mean, it's unarguable how successful she is, how well she's done in her career. And when we had this conversation in our house, you know, my guy said to me, Amy, I think she was just shocked. I don't think that she didn't mean to say anything. I think she was just shocked. But I would encourage us. I mean, obviously we can't go back in time. Beyonce's not listening to this, so she's not going to write me a nasty letter or anything, but I would encourage us that we stand together. And this is how I'm tying this into the shop. I had this idea and it came to me the first time I watched this documentary, and it fleshed out in my mind in the time that I was watching it the first time, of a t-shirt. So the Dare to Begin shop has coffee mugs, has a necklace, it has a bunch of t-shirts, and I'll be putting out new designs on the regular. But what I got this idea was a t-shirt that says on the front, stand together. And on the back says, raise the world. Because here's what I believe. I believe that if we stand up together for the good in the world, for one another, supporting one another, cheering on one another, celebrating each other's successes, celebrating our own successes, I think that the world in and of itself will only get better for it. I know that there's a lot of focus on resisting what's out there, stand against, rage against, resist, you know, the Trumps of the world or the Putins of the world or the whatevers of the world, the people who are focused on pulling others down, who are holding others down, who are taking away rights and natural born freedoms of any human being who just exists on the planet. There is this idea that we need to push against it. And here's the thing. When I was, even probably 5 years ago, that would have been my thought. We need to push against this. We need to do something. But when you resist something, it continues to happen. And the more you resist it, the bigger the friction gets, meaning it actually has a bigger impact on keeping that negative thing going. So I think we need to shift here. I think what we need to do is, instead of focusing on resisting what's out there, instead of having our conversations at social gatherings about how shitty the economy is, or how, you know, there's no good politicians, or how the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket. Instead of having those conversations, what we need to be is having conversations that say, what can we do? How can we raise up? How can we bring our energy and put our energy, again, I don't have a better word for it, put our energy behind someone who actually will make a change? Because here's the thing, these conversations drive me crazy, and they happen all the time in my house and with my friends, where there is someone, let's say politics, for example, there is someone in politics who could do such great benefit for the country or for the world, whatever it is, whatever the platform is. I mean, we don't have any world politicians, but you know what I mean. And yet, what I hear consistently, and I'm sure you hear this as well, is not, you know, these are so good and I'm so excited that they're going to get in and I'm really excited to support them, and, you know, I'm going to this rally or I'm going to this thing and I'm talking about this with my friends. What you hear is that person would be great, but they're not this. They're not brutal enough to be able to go after politics. They're just going to get taken over by someone else. You know, they're going to have to end up towing the line of the party, whatever. We focus on the wrong things. We focus on the things that are actually not helping us in any way, shape, or form. We focus on things that are actually creating more of what we don't want. And so I would encourage us, I'm going to bring this t-shirt out. I'm excited for what it's going to look like. I might even do it in a tank top, y'all. I might do a whole line of this, of the stand together line. In my mind, in my vision, it's a whole line. And in my broader vision, this line becomes something that I do some charitable giving with. I'm not going to say what that is yet. I'm not going to commit to it yet because I don't know what that looks like at this moment. But what I want to encourage us is to forget about resisting all of the stuff that we don't want to see in the world, and let's talk about standing together. The more you resist something, the more it is going to persist. It will just continue going on. So what if we just don't worry about it, and instead we focus all of our time and energy behind what we want to see happen, and we stand next to each other to raise it up and to make it happen. So when I saw this thing where, Kanye took the mic from Taylor, I mean, the guy's a douchebag, right? Anybody who does that. I don't know him personally. I don't know him very well at all. I don't know. I'm sure I've heard his music, but I'm not super familiar with it. But for someone to do that and think that's okay, in my mind, that person can only be a douchebag, because it doesn't make sense to me that someone who was a thoughtful person who understood, everybody brings value into the world, that was what I would call an enlightened person, like you and me sitting here together. They're just so lost in themselves. And I look at his life and I suspect he's probably really not very happy. He may have great success, but I wonder if he's really very happy. And that's not really for me to say. And it's not really for me to care about. But what I want to focus on is that in that moment where we needed to have change is where Beyonce could have taken her influence, her sway, her opinion, which matters greatly, and said, you know what, Taylor deserved this. We need to stand together, guys. We need to stop, going afterwards and saying like, oh my goodness, I didn't know what to say. We need to start programming ourselves to say, when something like this happens, we need to stand up. We need to, stand with one another and stop letting one person take the brunt of things. So over and over and over again, what I find so fascinating, not just with the Kanye thing, but if you see there's a number of things that she goes through in the documentary, she continues to rise above. She doesn't get dirty. She doesn't get nasty. She doesn't start slagging people. Even when she's starting to express her opinion in the political arena, which there is a lot of debate around, which is quite fascinating to me. She's not going after someone in a nasty way. And it's easy for us to judge someone like Taylor Swift because we don't live her life. She is living the dream that she wanted to have. All right. I want us to pay attention really closely to that. She's living the dream that she wanted to have. She came into it very young, and she came into it with a whole bunch of beliefs that are not serving her, which I was not aware of the beliefs that were not serving me when I was 19, 20, 21, 25, 27. I didn't have any idea. It wasn't really until I was 29, 30, 31 that I started to understand this idea that, oh my gosh, I believe things and they're actually not being beneficial to me. Oh, okay, but what do I do, right? Like I was in this victim mentality of, well, what can I do? That's how I was raised. Blame my parents, blame whatever, blame society. And it took a phenomenal amount of work for me to be able to start to realize, okay, so, I may not have had a say over what my parents raised me to believe, but I do have a say now in what I decide to continue to believe. And I'm still moving through those. I've been talking about, working on my relationship with money, and that is something that is very much in the forefront of my mind. Because, and I think I've mentioned this before, and if I haven't, then whatever, I'm going to mention it now. As much as I want to increase the abundance in my life, as much as I want to finally move into the state of reality that I know is capable for me, a 7-figure, 8-figure reality of just absolute abundance, where I'm making an enormous impact in the world, where I have thousands of people who are tuning into the podcast, where I am, selling products or selling courses and helping people make a difference. And more than that, creating some financial freedom, some deep and incredible financial freedom for myself, for my guy, for my family. Those are big, 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 big dreams to me. So I keep looking at this and I go, I need to figure out this belief system that I have around lack, around money not being for me, around, living in a state of debt, around always having money, more money going out than money coming in, for example. Because if I continue to stay in this, and here's the key, if I continue to stay in this belief system, I will not do the big things that I'm intended to do. It's not about saying, I just want to be greedy and I want all the money in the world and I want all the, the flashy cars and the private jets and the la, 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 la. It's not about that. I'm looking at this going, this belief structure that I have around lack, around money, around all these things that are financially based is impacting every avenue of my life. And it's impacting my ability to get out there and to have more people listen. So it's easy for us to look at someone like Taylor Swift and judge her and say, of course she has to be approved by people, whatever reasons we come up with. Or of course she wasn't happy because she became the person everybody wanted her to be, whatever. It's easy for us to judge her and look at her and say, come on, you should have done better. But I would challenge any one of us at 19 or 20 or 25 or 27, if you were that enlightened, were you that aware? And if you were, fantastic. I think that's phenomenal. And I'm so grateful for you that was your reality, because that means you either had a deep tenacity or you were made aware of these things much earlier on than most of us are. And what a wonderful gift for you to have that. But I'm guessing that most of you who are listening to me today are, moved through similar things to me, that we went through this process of discovery, when we're in our 17, 18, 19, 20, through our 20s. It's into my 30s, and I'm finally starting to understand. I remember somebody said to me that, in your 20s, you think you know everything and you're going out and whatever. In your 30s, you start to question things, but in your 40s, women become much more comfortable in their skin. And that's why women in their 40s, they're at the point where they don't give a fuck anymore. It's not because they don't care. It's because I suspect, I'm not there yet. I'll tell you when I turn 40. But I suspect that what happens is, because in our 30s, we start to question a lot. We're starting to really take a look at our life, at our reality, at what is around us, and start to say, is this what's meant for me? And if it is, why is it meant for me? Sometimes we don't have, and most times we don't have what we want to have. But sometimes the questions are like, wow, how lucky am I that this is my reality? But I think that in our 30s, we really start to question those things. And I'm excited for this podcast because I feel like in a way, this podcast is a little bit like my little diary. Y'all get to run along with me with my changes and stuff. But I'm starting to see that, I turned 36 last year. I have to keep reminding myself that. Somehow I keep trying to add a year into my age. But I'm only 36 at the moment. And if I look at each year from the year I turned 30, 29 really was pivotal. And then 30, 31, 32, 33, every year, I can see every year I started to grow more and more and more. I went through a ton of shit in my 20s. Learned a lot of painful lessons in my 20s, but in my 30s, I'm starting to question it, and I'm starting to be open to the idea of reshaping it, of saying this doesn't have to be my reality, right? Like the moment that I realized that I had a belief that debt is normal. Let me say that again. I had a belief that living in debt is normal. The moment that I realized that, it was literally like a mind-blowing moment. I was like, what the fuck? How have I become someone who believes that this is normal? No wonder I'm not achieving the financial status that I want to, because if I get anywhere close to making that kind of progress, my identity goes, whoa, hold the phone here. This is not who we are. We are someone who needs to be in debt. That's normal to us. That is what we need to have. So great job on getting all that stuff done, but we're going to pull us back into debt because that's where we belong. That was the most mind-boggling moment in the last couple of years to go, oh my God, I can't believe that I believe that. One of the things that Taylor talks about a lot is around body image. And I want to touch on this very briefly. Again, this is not just intended for women. I think men struggle with this too to some degree. I don't know because I don't really have these conversations with the guys, but I think in women in particular, we really struggle with our body image. I had a conversation, messaged a friend of mine just a couple weeks ago. She and I used to train Muay Thai together. We are the best of friends. I adore her. There is nobody else that I want to take it to the mat with. We just adored each other. We had that perfect chemistry of, we were perfect partners and working together really well. And I'm getting ready for a trip to go back to where I grew up. And I haven't been to Manitoba for probably about 4, maybe 5 years. It's been a long time since I've seen some people. Some people that I'm going to be seeing, I actually haven't seen since I moved away, which was 6 years ago. Lord help me, I cannot remember exactly, but I think it's 6 years ago. And in the last few years, my life has changed a little bit and I've put on some weight. I am not overweight. I am not fat, but I am not happy with how my body looks at the moment. And that's something that I'm working on. Again, that's a belief system I'm working on. That's something a physical reality that I'm working on. But I was speaking with her and we were talking about working out for some reason. We talk about it often. But one of the things I said to her is that I'm really nervous actually for going back to Manitoba because I'm almost ashamed for people to see me. I have this thought that when I was 29, I was in the most glorious shape, you guys. There's moments that I'm just like, I wish that I really had extra appreciated how fantastic I looked at the time. I had a size 6 dress for my sister's wedding, which was dumbfounding to me as well as to the rest of my family. That didn't go over very well, but I was just, my body was healthy. My body was lean. I was doing different things that a lot of it were stress related. And so the more that I keep looking at this, I have to remind myself, and I think I've talked about this before, I have to be careful that I don't idolize that moment in my life because that point of time in my life was a shit show. Everything had burnt to the ground. Literally, my life was down to ashes and was being rebuilt. So I was running to deal with the stress. Neither one of those are necessarily good. Running is phenomenal for your body. And because I ran so much every week, the muscles in my body became very long and very lean versus the Muay Thai muscles that I had. And it's so funny. My body's so funny. My body can pick up muscle like it ain't no thing. As soon as I start doing Muay Thai again, my thighs and my hips just chunk right out. Throw 10 squats in there and I have big bulky legs. But anyway, so I'm talking about this with my friend and I said, I'm really nervous about this and I'm struggling with this. Internally, I was struggling with this. And she said, Amy, nobody cares what you look like. You are not 1 ounce less wonderful to be around, less, energetic, less full of joy, less full of just the joie de vivre than you were then. In fact, if anything, you are more. You're becoming even more who you're supposed to be. And so what if you're carrying a little bit of extra weight? Nobody's going to notice that. Right? That was just the most amazing thing for her to say to me. And in the documentary, Taylor's talking about how the impossible standard that we put on women, and we cannot continue to point the finger at guys and say men have created this standard and men perpetuate this standard and men, make it so we have to think this way or be this way or try to make our bodies look this way, because the truth is, as women, we do it too. We shame other women if they've gained weight. We shame other women if you can see their underwear line, or God forbid they're wearing a snug dress and they just put on 30 pounds or whatever. We shame them. And I know as much as I do my best not to, it still happens, even if it's only in my head, where I'll see somebody like, oof, you should not have worn that, is not flattering. And that may be an honest opinion, but I'm still creating the shame on this other person. And so Taylor's talking about this, about how, there's this impossible image. And she basically said, so she struggled with eating. She didn't realize that, she could finish a concert and feel okay. She was not eating enough. And so she'd finish a concert and be exhausted to the point of being sick. And so she finally figured out and started to eat healthier. But she said, you know what, if you have enough on your body to have a booty, then you're fat somewhere else. But if you're thin everywhere else, then you don't have enough of a booty. And I would like to point out, we are all built differently. This is something that I had to come through, and God bless this man. My guy reminds me of this so often. If I look at someone like Taylor, for example, and think, wow, excuse me, I would love to have her shape and, just the way that she can wear a cat suit or a long dress. I'm just like, girl, I'm super jealous of you right now. And he says to me, you're not the same body type. You're built totally different. That's like, looking at a Ford and wishing that my Ford looked more like a Hyundai or something. It doesn't make any sense. You're built entirely differently. And so as women, we need to, I think a lot of us, I'm sure my hand's up and I'm sure yours is as well for the ladies who are listening, that we're working on that. We're working on that image of ourselves, but it is a constant battle between, trying to love ourselves and be happy with our bodies and be grateful for our bodies, and also feeling sexy with our partners, or feeling like, we're doing a good job, or we're, our coworkers don't think we're fat, or whatever. Wearing the clothes that we want to wear without being called names, right? I think that as women, this is something that we're working on, and I would encourage us to keep going. I would encourage us, something that I would like to do more of is to be more complimentary. Here's the funny thing. So when I was in university, I worked at a coffee shop, and the coffee shop was in a mall. There was a woman that worked at the beauty counter in the Bay, which I don't know if you're not from Canada, you may not be familiar with the Hudson's Bay Company, but it's a big department store. And this girl was just stunning. She had the most gorgeous red hair. She had the most beautiful complexion. She would come in and I'd be speechless because I was just so stunned by her beauty. 4 years I worked there, and never once did I say to her, I think you're one of the most beautiful women I've ever met. Because I was terrified that would go across the wrong way. I wasn't interested in her. I've never, been that way. But I just didn't know how can I compliment someone without it being weird, without them getting the wrong idea. And so I'm working on that. I'm working on, how can I bring a compliment or give a compliment to someone about something that I truly see. I've said this before, the amount of girls whose bottoms who out there, and I'm just like, girl, you have a banging booty. I'm so impressed with you right now, but I don't feel like I can go say that to somebody. I feel like that's weird. And yet if someone came up to me and said, Amy, you have the most amazing butt, I think it's so sexy, that would just make my day. Right? I think that, so that's something that I'm working on, and I would definitely encourage all of us to step up to that, to raise the bar on that. I want to touch really quickly on this one. There was, Taylor was going to some kind of awards night. I don't know. Anyway, she was in a really cute dress, and there was a woman entertainment person. They said, we want to have a look at the dress, pan down, because it was really cute. It had a really cute cutout in the front. And the woman announcer basically said to her, like, I think you're going to be going home with more than just some awards tonight. I imagine you're going to be going home with some men. And God bless Taylor for saying this. She just looked at her straight in the face and said, I'm not going to walk away with any men tonight. And I think as women, we need to stop asking those questions. We need to stop asking those questions, and we need to encourage each other to stop asking them as well. All right? I think that that's really important for us, that we do that. So as Taylor continues to go forward, she talks about, I guess there's a point of time, a year in her life, where she basically pulled back. There was a lot of things happening in her life. There was a lot of backlash coming against her as an artist. And so she pulled back. She pulled out of the public eye. She basically took a year and just didn't go out, didn't do anything, wasn't attending events or anything, I don't think. And this is the pivotal moment. And this is something that I want us to pay very close attention to. And again, I deeply encourage you to watch the documentary and watch it with the eye of an observer, and watch for the transformation, because this is the point of transformation. she finally begins to realize that the way she's built her life, the way she's been living her life has not been conducive to living a healthy, happy, joyful life. And she says, I had to deconstruct my entire belief system for my own sanity. This is transformation, guys. This is what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about, asking deep questions and doing meditation and challenging the status quo and uncovering your stories and standing up together. What I'm talking about is all parts of the process of transformation. I am in transformation right now. I believe that you, if you're listening to this, if you're listening to me, if you're interested in what I have to say, it's because you're someone who is in transformation as well. Whether you're at the beginning stages or you're in the middle of the muck of it, or you're coming out of a big growth stage that you just, you're sort of starting to level up a little bit and you're like, okay, whew, let me catch my breath here a second. But we're going through this transformation, and it was so astounding to me how she couldn't have said it any more clearly. I had to deconstruct my entire belief system. This is what I've been doing for the last 6, 7, 8 years of my life. There's been a lot of things that have come for me personally that have come under question in my life because I began to realize that none of this made sense. I was believing things, I was allowing things to happen in my reality that didn't make any sense. I was allowing myself to believe people that I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And I began to start questioning things because there was this lack of continuity in the line of my life. There was things happening that wasn't making sense. And even though I didn't realize at the time that what I was doing was starting to actually question the things that I believed, I just saw this as what the hell? Nobody that I ever thought that I knew was actually the person I thought that I knew. But it began helping me open that door to be able to have an actual honest look at, what do I believe? What do I think? What am I telling myself? What story am I selling myself into? And I say it that way very specifically. We can make it sound nice and say, well, I've been telling myself this story or been believing this story. We have been selling ourselves into a story. And some of those stories are beneficial. Obviously, the need that Taylor had to be thought of as good, to find that fulfillment through approval has led to a very, very successful career, which is phenomenal. But it has come at a cost. And the story that she was selling herself into has allowed her to push through and to just put her head down and keep going for the dream that she has. But now she's having this, at the moment as this documentary is ending, she's having this moment of awareness going, this can't be it. This can't be it. There's got to be something more. I need to really question everything. And so when I'm talking about the story we're selling ourselves into, what story are you selling yourself on that is preventing you from creating massive growth or from breaking through or from just getting out of something that has been kind of annoying? It's been amazing to me. So in part of my journey of wanting to release some of the weight and to return my body to a state that feels more natural to me, that feels just better to me, right? I mentioned before that I'm aiming to release some weight. But in the process of this, I had to take a really good look at not just, what things can I do, such as exercise more regularly, but what things are not serving me. And y'all, I'm a big sweet tooth. I have been a sweet tooth for as long as I can remember. I love all things sugar. I love chips. I love, I could take down a bag of chips like a lion takes down a herd of antelope kind of a thing. I love it. And I began to realize that, it's not just the fact that I'm not exercising or that my job has me much more stationary now than I have been in the past. It's also the fact that it wasn't that I was eating a ton of sweets. I want to be clear about this because I want people, we have a tendency as humans to be like, oh, well, Amy, that's what you should just stop putting that junk in your mouth. It wasn't that I was eating a ton. So I wanted to be clear on that. But what I began to realize was there's a belief here that I'm holding around sweets that is not serving me. And that belief, I haven't quite fully drilled down to it, but essentially what I'm beginning to understand it being is that there's comfort. I'm having a stressful day, and so let me have some sweets that will help me feel a little bit better. I've had a full day. I'm allowed to sit down and have some chips. I just finished dinner and I still feel kind of hungry. I'll have some chips, or I'll have some candy, or I'll have some cake, or whatever it is. It wasn't every day, it wasn't all the time, but it was this belief that I had, this story that I was telling myself that candy was somehow going to make it better. It was going to make me feel better. And in the moment it did. In the moment, if I had, a tough interaction with a client or something, and I would come to the kitchen just like full of steam and spit and vinegar, having, a handful of candy, okay, yeah, that did make me feel better in the moment. It didn't necessarily make me feel better long term, though. But what's amazing to me, this has been the most incredible transformation to me, and I'm watching it happen. It's me. It's in my life. I'm literally watching this happen in my life with just this sense of awe. When I began asking questions around the candy, asking questions around the stories that I was telling myself, asking questions around, is there a habit that is in here? And what is that habit based on? And that habit is often based on some story that I've told myself. That without having to generate a phenomenal amount of willpower, my desire for sweet things has just been fading. Because I finally was able to recognize this. This is a story that I've been telling myself. I've been telling myself that there's comfort in this. I've been telling myself that I deserve having this. I need to be very careful. I still do this sometimes. I think I said something like this the other day. I was out for lunch somewhere and someone wanted to order dessert. And I said, you deserve to have dessert. And as the words were coming out of my mouth, I thought, oh, I need to find a different way to have this conversation, because I don't ever want someone to feel like they can't have dessert. If you want to have dessert, by all means, have dessert and enjoy it to the full. It's not that I'm never eating dessert again, but this story around it for me has to change. So this is a huge moment, and I tried to tell my guy about it, and he was like, okay. And then afterwards could kind of see like I was excited, and he's like, oh, that's fantastic. If that's big news for you, then I'm happy for you. I had gone out for lunch with a client, and after lunch, so my client was treating me to lunch this day. And after lunch, my client wanted to have dessert. They were going to have dessert and a cup of coffee. And they said, Amy, would you like anything? Now, this is a situation that I had been waiting for probably as long as I have been a conscious, normal adult. I don't know why I said normal, but anyway, a conscious adult sort of living in the world where somebody else was going to have dessert. They were paying for my dessert, and there was full permission for me to have it. Most of the time, I was always the one who wanted to have dessert, and everybody else said, no, I shouldn't. And so then often I wouldn't, because I'd feel like, oh, like, Amy, if you feel like you need to lose some weight, maybe you shouldn't have some dessert, right? It was never something that was feeling a good no. It was more of a feeling like, okay, I probably shouldn't do this because they're going to judge me for how I look or whatever. So we're at lunch. My client says to me, I'm going to have dessert. Would you like some dessert as well? Now, I sat with it for a few moments because there was two things on the dessert menu that I would have just loved to have eaten. I've had them before. I know they're both phenomenal. So it wasn't a matter of like, okay, is it going to be good? Is it not? I knew they're both delicious. But there was a conversation and a conversation in a state of observation, which is a weird conversation, and I can't fully explain it, but happening in my mind around this idea of dessert. Did I really want it? That was the first question. Do I really want to have dessert? If I had it right now, it would be delicious, but why am I having it? Am I still hungry? Do I need it? What's the deal here? What am I telling myself around this? And within a few moments, I realized I actually don't want to have dessert. And I was totally okay with that. So I said, you know what? No, I'm good, but I'm gonna order a cup of tea so that you're not having something all by yourself. Because tea is no calories, and it was delicious. I came home that day and I was telling my guy about this story and was so excited. And what I was excited about was not the fact that, we need to celebrate the fact that I didn't have dessert, but the fact that I had this awareness and this complete confidence in saying, no, you know what? I don't want it. That is coming out of starting to question the stories and the beliefs and the habits that are in my life. Is my body changing? Not that I can see. Excuse me, not that I can see yet. I don't see that it's physically changed yet, but I do feel like I'm not craving those things. I'm not going after those things. And this is what I want to wrap this up on Taylor, because I could talk about this for hours, y'all. But what I want to wrap up on here is that the documentary is a beautiful story of transformation. It is watching someone move through some really tough shit in their life and continually rise above and finally come to a point in their life where they say, just a minute, this isn't working. And give themselves the grace and the space to begin to move through the bullshit they've been telling themselves. That's what I really love. I love seeing someone finally saying, let's challenge the status quo. This isn't working. We need to do something different. When she finishes, I think one of the last things she says is that her goal is to have a sharp pen, a thin skin, and an open heart. And I think it just ends it quite beautifully. I think the idea that she wants to continue to tell stories, she wants to continue to be real with her fans, she wants to continue to, create more of this amazing work that she's been putting out, but she also doesn't want to do it by creating a thick skin, by saying, fuck the world, I'm just going to figure it out on my own, by being open to having more experiences and being vulnerable to what can happen. I think that in and of itself is huge. And I'm going to wrap it right there. I would encourage you to have a watch of the documentary. It's called Miss Americana, I believe. It's on Netflix. I'm sure in the States it's on Netflix as well, because I know you guys are listening from all over the place. In Canada, I know it's on Netflix. And just watch it. Sit down, leave your judgments aside, cast whatever feelings and emotions and thoughts you have, beliefs about Taylor aside, and just watch it. Watch it with the eye of an observer and pay close attention to some of the things that she says and just see this story of transformation come through. And I would challenge you, I would encourage you to use this as a fantastic jumping off point for your own life. That you can, watch someone else. Sometimes watching somebody else move through stages of transformation makes it easier for us to be able to see things. So I would encourage you to do that. Take some time for some inner reflection. Ask the questions, you guys. The transformation that I am continually going through, the person that I am growing more and more into being, is becoming the way it is because I am challenging what I believe. I am questioning the stories that I've been selling myself into. I am willing to be vulnerable, to dig into it, to take responsibility for the shit that I've brought into my life and for the good things that I've brought into my life. And as I mentioned, we need to stand together as we are going through this, as we are making the choice to move through these stages, to be honest with ourselves. Let's stand together as we do it. It's messy. It's scary. It's not easy. It is much better to do it with someone. So if you have a coach or can find a coach that works phenomenally with you, I highly encourage it, because there are deep transformations that I cannot have done without my coach. I would not have had the awareness or have been able to hold this stable, steady space for me to move through some of this deep stuff that I had to go through. And stand together. Let's stop beating each other up. And this is something that I have been working on that when someone is sharing their story or sharing a struggle or sharing whatever it is that they're sharing, that I am not immediately moving into fix-it mode. That's a challenge for me, you guys, because I want to fix it. That's part of being a designer is to make it better. A lot of the stuff that I do in all avenues of work that I do is really about solving problems, creating fantastic solutions that work, that move things forward. And so when someone's moving through something deep, I have to continually remind myself, this is not a moment for me to fix it. I need to let them move through it. And if they have a question, I'm more than happy to share. If they want to hear some insight or advice or my thoughts or whatever, then I'm more than happy to share it. But for me to listen to someone and then jump all over them, which I had done in the past, I'm totally guilty of that. I'm sure you are as well. It's not fair to them. So let's hold space for each other to continue to grow. All right. I hold space for you to continue to step into who you're becoming, to really start to understand who this person is that you've been your whole life, and what parts of you do you want to continue to be, and what parts of you do you want to start to grow out of? What parts of you want to start to grow into? Right? We have this idea in mind of this life that we want to have. Let's grow into it and let's do it together. I'm so grateful that you have listened into the episode today and that you've put up with my somewhat rambling. I mean, I went through my notes, but somewhat rambling. And my hotel, I have no idea if this is echoey or not because I'm just talking to you, but I'll have a listen afterwards. And I guess if it's echoey, well, shit, because I'm not re-recording it, guys. It's time to go out for dinner. This girl is hungry. So thank you for joining me. I so appreciate you being here every week. And I would just ask you, please, if you find value out of this episode, out of any episode, please share it out. Let's get the word out there. Help me step into the person that I'm meant to become. Help me to continue to grow, because I believe that what I'm doing, what I'm bringing out, the more that I lean into the true essence of who I'm supposed to be, the greater impact I'm going to have on the world. And I would love it if you would. It would blow my socks off and probably scare the shit out of me if I went from I think I average 20 downloads a week. And if you're just hearing this, please don't judge me on this, but it would blow my socks off if I suddenly had 100, 200, 1,000 downloads in a week. It'd be super exciting and also a shit my pants scary kind of moment. But help me get the word out. Okay, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for listening. I will catch you next week. We've officially wrapped episode 52, which feels like not really a big thing, except that 52 weeks in the year. I know I took a couple weeks off. I'm just going to celebrate it anyway. Bye for now. Are you tired of figuring it out all on your own? Of sitting in overwhelm, knowing that you're not moving forward, but having no idea where or how to start? Are you ready to learn effective profit-supporting strategies for your business so that you can finally earn the money you desire and step into the freedom that you're working so hard to create? If so, I invite you to join me inside the Launchpad. You'll get instant access to free training designed to meet you where you are right now and propel you forward toward the dream that you hold in your mind. It's time to make a powerful move toward your future. Time to step up and serve the people who desperately need your help. Let's not keep them waiting any longer. Today is the day. Join the Launchpad now. Just go to daretobegin.net/the Launchpad and sign up. Your success is inevitable. Now, let's launch it.